Hey guys, today I am super excited to share with you the launch of my first and new case that I designed from the ground up. If you've been following me on my channel and social media, then you may have already seen earlier prototypes of it. Well, after some time listening to feedbacks, refining the design, and talking to my local powder coating shop and ironing out some logistics, this is the final version. And I do have a name for it. The case is called Morph. Without further delay, I'm jumping straight into the features and specs right now. Morph is an open-air minimalist full steel chassis designed intentionally for air cooling and was made to be a flexible ambidextrous case, allowing the user to set it on the left or right side of the desk by simply flipping the case over. All you have to do is install the rubber feet on the appropriate top or bottom panel, whichever side is facing down. Overall dimensions, it is slightly larger than some ITX cases, but smaller than most compact mid-tower ATX cases. The case also has a sliding motherboard tray, or core as I call it, back and forth to accommodate different sized graphics cards. You do this by loosening the 4 10x32 screws, 2 on top and 2 on the bottom, to adjust the spacing and then retightening them to secure it. When I first initially designed the case, the idea came from wanting to fit the physically largest GPU on the market at the time, which was and currently still is the RTX 4090 Strix by ASUS, into a mini ITX. But then I figured not everyone will have such a large graphics card, so I wanted to provide that modular core as an option to tighten things up inside for something smaller like an RTX 3060. Morph also has 2 core options, an ITX core and an ATX core, allowing the user to have a larger range of motherboard choices. I also want to note that although an ITX motherboard can still be mounted on the ATX core, there still needed to be separate sized trays because the CPU placement is positioned differently on ITX motherboards versus ATX motherboards, which means the cutouts on the back of the tray made to access CPU cooler mounting brackets needed to be cut different as well. During orders, I will allow people to pick the tray size that they want so they don't have to spend more money buying both. And of course, they could always purchase the other one later down the line, assuming available stock. So if you plan on swapping between ITX and ATX motherboards and just want to purchase the ATX core, you absolutely can. But just keep in mind that if you want to swap CPU coolers when an ITX board is mounted on the ATX core, you'll most likely have to take the ITX motherboard off first, change your cooler, and reinstall it again. There are also 2 options for the power supply mounting bracket, full-size ATX and SFX, allowing the user to have a wider range of PSU choices. And yes, both PSU brackets can fit on both the ATX and ITX core. When using an SFX power supply, Morph is able to lie down on its side in a test bench orientation. This will not be possible with the ATX power supply though, as the bracket will protrude out farther past the frame's width. When using the ATX core, the user also has 2 mounting options for the power supply. This modularity was provided with the thought of allowing the user to lower the center of gravity of their build. Not that this is actually a problem when placed higher up, the case is stable regardless of the PSU placement, so it really just has more of an impact on visual preference. Additionally, there is an optional 2.5-inch SSD tray that can be attached, which will mount up to 3 SSDs. On the ATX core, the SSD tray can be mounted if the power supply is placed in the higher top position. Next up is the power button. Default position is placed on the top panel up front. On the ATX core, the user may also install the power button in the center here like so. On the ITX core, the user may install it at the top of the core here. It's all personal preference. There are no front I/O ports implemented in my design of Morph for a few reasons. In my experience of using many different PC cases, the front I/O ports usually don't have the best connections anyways. Sometimes the signals cut in and out, or they just straight stop working after a couple years, because it depends entirely on the quality of the front I/O hub. Cable management is another one. I never even bothered connecting these. The only cable I actually connect is the power button. That's it. Out of habit, I always connect all my devices straight to the back of the motherboard for a more solid connection. And also having cables sticking off the front of a case from front I/O ports is just not an attractive look on a desk setup in my personal opinion. So in summary, Morph is an open-air minimalist steel case that is designed intentionally for air cooling, providing modular options and flexible ambidextrous desk setup placement. The aim is also to keep it low maintenance, low hassle, and simple, which is why this is strictly an air cooling case. I do have an interest check Google form which I'll link in my Discord server announcement to gauge how many people are actually interested in purchasing one, so I know how many to make for this first group buy batch. I do have a very rough estimate of a small number of people that have already shown interest, and I will be making at least a couple dozen units in the first run. Making more batches after will depend entirely on how successful this first run is. If you're wondering when the first run will happen, well, I would ideally like to start production mid-June. So next month, which is about 2.5 weeks from now, and that's ideally. Joining my Discord server is the best way to get early updates on my projects and videos like this, and it also allows better direct communication with me and other knowledgeable involved members if you have questions. Remember that if you do join the Discord server, please read the rules upon entering and react to the green checkmark to agree to those terms to gain membership access on channels. With that being said, up next, the following individuals listed here are some industry professionals and friends who have helped me along the way by providing guidance, resourcefulness, knowledge, their time, influence, and inspiration in some way towards how I designed Morph. Tim from PC Works, Bill from MN PC Tech, John and Ellie from Liquid House, Eric from Yulebeast, Brian from Bad Seed Tech, Brett from UFD Tech, Derek from Rhodes PC, Ron from Blue Horse Studios, Alessandro from Explore Modding, and my accountant Kevin. Lastly, I want to say that however many Morph cases I end up selling, 50% of the profits made from the first group buy batch will be donated to the SingGap Research Fund, and 50% of it will be reinvested back into my business as a content creator so that I can continue doing this really and maybe actually create a sustainable business model. Okay, so that's all I have for this video. I hope to see your responses in the Google Forms about my Morph case and maybe see you in the Discord server. But for sure, I will see you in the next one. Peace.